Kai's mother walked in, her steps slow and deliberate, each one measured, almost echoing in the quiet hospital room. The donor looked up at her, curiosity flickering in his eyes, and asked if she was May. Kai's mother stopped in front of him, a faint, controlled smile playing on her lips, and told him that she was not May. The man's curiosity deepened, and he asked who she was. Kai's mother's gaze stayed fixed on him as she said she was someone there to save his life. Before he could respond, she continued, her voice calm yet sharp, telling him that May and James had manipulated him, making him willingly agree to this, promising riches while blinding him to the bigger picture. The man looked at her steadily, a trace of defiance in his voice. He told her that he was dying anyway, that there was no bigger picture to see, and that it was his decision to become their daughter's donor. Kai's mother's gaze did not waver. She leaned in slightly, her tone firm yet persuasive, telling him that his last moments should be spent with his family, cherishing every single second. From what she had heard from the doctor, he had only a year left. That was enough time to make those moments meaningful, and being here, willingly caught in someone else's scheme, meant he would die without experiencing them. The man's eyes hardened. He told her his decision was final, that nothing could be changed. By doing this, his family would not suffer if he was gone. At least they would be taken care of. He was a poor man, dying anyway, and helping May and James's daughter also helped his own family. Kai's mother moved closer, sitting beside him. She took his hands in hers, her touch steady and deliberate, and looked deeply into his eyes. She asked if it was really about money, the reason he was doing this. Her voice softened ever so slightly as she proposed a deal. She would pay him double the amount May and James were offering. All she wanted was for him to go back to his family, to spend his last precious moments with them, and not be ensnared in the selfish schemes of wealthy people. The man's eyes widened in surprise. Slowly, he released his hands from hers, looking at her in shock. He asked what she wanted and how she could do this for free. Kai's mother leaned in, her smile gentle but unwavering, telling him she was just a good Samaritan. She could not bear to see wealthy people exploit the poor, and his family's time together mattered, even if short. Her gaze never left him as she asked again if he would accept the deal. The man hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing down on him, before finally nodding, agreeing to take it. Kai's mother smiled, a subtle satisfaction in her eyes. She stood and reassured him that since he had not signed any papers yet, everything would be easy, and he had nothing to worry about. She would handle it all. At that moment, the door opened, and May and James entered, holding the paperwork. May froze mid-step as her eyes fell on Kai's mother standing there. Her intuition screamed that she was not here with good intentions. She rushed forward, her voice urgent, demanding to know what Kai's mother was doing and insisting that she was not allowed there. Kai's mother's lips curved into a sinister smile. Calmly, deliberately, she told May that she was there to help someone who truly needed it. She glanced at the donor, her gaze icy and precise. James stepped forward, concern etched on his face, asking what was happening. The donor, standing firm, said he was sorry, but he would not go through with being a donor. May's body seemed to weaken, the documents slipping from her hands and scattering across the floor. Her face paled as the weight of the moment hit her. James pressed forward, desperate, asking what he meant. They had an agreement, she reminded him, and his family would be taken care of. But the donor remained steadfast, explaining that he wanted to spend the remaining time he had left with his family. May moved closer, begging, her voice trembling, but the doctor intervened. Calm and firm, he reminded them that if the donor changed his mind, they had no choice but to comply. He took the man's hand and led him out. May, nearly collapsing from shock and fear, turned to Kai's mother, trembling, tears threatening to fall. She asked what she had done, accusingly if she had orchestrated this, Kai's mother leaned in close to her ear, slow and deliberate, her words sharp and cold as ice. She whispered that she had warned her before. She would see that May's bastard daughter would not survive, and as long as she was alive, she would make sure of it. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving May and James standing there, her body trembling, tears welling, and the world spinning violently around her. Liwei pulled up at the office, the car engine humming softly as he sat inside, his eyes fixed on the journalist standing there, waiting for him. His expression shifted, tightening as he took a deep breath, steadying himself before opening the door. Stepping out, he immediately felt the swarm of reporters rush toward him, microphones thrust forward, cameras flashing, all clamoring for his attention. They shouted countless questions, asking if the news circulating online about him was true, if he was really involved with the model and social media star, and how long they had been together. Liwei said nothing. He continued walking, ignoring the barrage of voices and questions that followed him, their words a chaotic blur. He finally entered the building, passing employees who glanced at him, whispering to one another in disbelief that he was taken and that his girlfriend looked stunning. Liwei moved with calm precision, his presence commanding, his gaze fixed ahead as he reached his office. Inside, his assistant was already waiting, his movements quick, urgent. Seeing Liwei, he rushed toward him, voice trembling slightly. Liwei stopped and turned, asking firmly if he was there to pester him, just like the journalists had. The assistant, desperate, told him the rumors were spiraling out of control and that he really needed to address the media to tell his side of the story. Liwei simply sat down, opening his laptop, ignoring the assistant's pleas. The assistant leaned closer, urgency mounting, insisting that the rumors were damaging both his reputation and the company's, and that if he was really dating the model, he should confirm it immediately. Liwei's sharp gaze fell on him, piercing. He leaned forward, tone icy, asking if that girl even looked like his type. The assistant hesitated, then muttered that no one really knew his type. Since he had never dated much, Liwei's expression remained unreadable as he leaned back, calm and deliberate. He told his assistant to ignore the rumors in the media. Eventually, people would lose interest when another hot topic came along. He reached for his cell phone, with a shattered screen. The assistant's eyes flicked to it, alarmed, asking what had happened. Liwei's tone was firm, as he replied that the assistant asked too many questions. He pulled a bank card from his wallet and handed it over, instructing him to go get him the latest iPhone. The assistant took the card without hesitation and left, leaving Liwei sitting alone. His mind drifted to Amara. He missed her so deeply that it made it hard to breathe, impossible to focus. Sleep had become a stranger, nightmares clawing at him relentlessly. He couldn't stop thinking about her. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, James and May stood together in their house. The atmosphere was tense, suffocating, as May's frustration and anger etched every line of her face. She could not believe that Kai's mother had the audacity to do what she did. She clearly wanted war, and May intended to give it to her. James stepped closer, concern evident, asking what exactly was going on between them. May immediately brushed him off, her tone sharp. She said there was no time for explanations. Since they had failed to convince the donor, they needed to start finding ways to get to Amara again. The good news, she added, was that Amara had lost her memories, which would make things easier. They only needed to lure her in. James reminded her that they had tried with Amara countless times, yet everything had gone wrong. May's frustration boiled over, and she shouted, demanding what he thought they should do. She accused him of failing to find a donor and questioned whether he had really been doing his work or simply spending months indulging in affairs with women. James's face fell, visibly hurt. He defended himself, telling her he had done nothing of the sort, that his entire life had been dedicated to saving their daughter. He could not understand how she had the audacity to accuse him of such things. May said nothing in response, simply turning away and walking off, her anger palpable. Back in his office, after setting up his new cell phone, Liwei noticed a string of new messages. Among them was a text from Amara, telling him that she was returning and would be at the airport that afternoon. His heart leapt. Glancing at the time, he realized it was already afternoon. Without a second thought, he grabbed his car keys and rushed out, a rare smile tugging at his lips. Finally, he would see his woman again. Finally hold her in his arms. Liwei pulled up at the airport, the engine of his car humming softly as he sat inside, eyes scanning the area. Before he could step out, he noticed a cluster of paparazzi gathered outside, cameras ready, microphones poised. He frowned, realizing that they had probably been following him, waiting for this exact moment. He sighed, knowing that this would be far more difficult than he had anticipated. He grabbed his cell phone and dialed Amara's number. The line connected immediately, her voice bright and happy on the other end. She asked if he was coming to get her from the airport. Liwei's expression tightened as he replied that a few journalists were already gathered outside, and it would be difficult to get in. Amara's tone shifted slightly, disappointment lacing her words, but she said it was okay and that she could always take a cab home. Liwei's gaze shifted, and he spotted Ming stepping out of his car nearby. He immediately reassured Amara, telling her not to worry, that he had a plan. Without another word, he hung up and dialed Ming's number. Within moments, Ming slid into the passenger seat of Liwei's car, his eyes curious as he asked what the problem was. Liwei explained that he couldn't get in because journalists were swarming the entrance and that Amara was waiting inside. Ming nodded, explaining that Momo had also called him and that he was there to pick her up. He suggested a simple solution. He could take Amara home now, and Liwei could find her at home later. But Liwei shook his head, his voice firm, stating that the reason he had come was because he wanted to welcome her home himself, to pick her up personally from the airport. Ming's brow furrowed as he asked what he planned to do, pointing out that the journalists outside would not stop until they got what they wanted. Liwei's expression remained unreadable as he said calmly that he would think of something. Meanwhile, inside the airport, Momo and Amara sat together. Momo glanced at Amara and told her not to worry. Ming would be there soon to pick them up. She added that it was a shame Liwei couldn't get in because of the journalists. Amara nodded, trying to mask her disappointment, and told her it was fine. Momo's sharp eyes noticed that Amara still wasn't okay. Leaning closer, she asked her what was wrong. Amara hesitated, then admitted that she had been watching how people came to pick up their loved ones, how they hugged and kissed with excitement, and it made her feel as though she wouldn't be able to experience that. With Liwei, Momo gently took her hands in hers, squeezing them and telling her not to be down, assuring her that soon this would all be over, and she and Liwei would be able to act like a normal couple without hiding. Amara nodded silently, drawing some comfort from her words. Momo's attention shifted and she spotted Ming walking in. She rushed to him, a bright smile lighting up her face, ready to hug him. But before she could wrap her arms around him, Ming stepped back, a look of confusion passing over his face. "It's not Ming," he said, his voice firm. "It's Liwei." Momo looked at him, surprised, her eyes wide as she processed the situation. Liwei walked over to where Amara was sitting, his presence commanding yet calm. He stood there, his gaze fixed on her, taking in how downcast she seemed. Amara looked up at him, a small smile breaking through her sadness, and told him that it was a good thing he had come to get Momo, and that she was happy their relationship was progressing. Liwei's lips curved into a soft laugh, and he called her his princess, the words warm and teasing. Amara's eyes widened as she realized it was indeed Liwei. Without hesitation, she stood, excitement radiating from her, and threw her arms around him. Liwei lifted her up, holding her tightly, visibly happy to see her after the time apart. He looked down at her with a playful smile and told her that he had exchanged clothes with Ming so he could come see her, insisting that he didn't want to miss the opportunity of picking her up from the airport himself. Amara's face lit up with a smile as she told him how much she had missed him. Liwei pulled her close again, hugging her as if he could make up for every moment apart. Momo watched them quietly for a moment, before asking if that meant Ming was still outside. Liwei nodded and explained that it would be too risky for her to go to him, since the journalists already thought Ming was him. He added that he would take her to school, and that she could meet Ming there. Momo, visibly disappointed, nodded in understanding. Liwei grabbed both Amara and Momo's luggage, and the two of them followed him. They got into Ming's car and drove off, Ming taking Liwei's car in return. After dropping off Momo, Liwei continued driving with Amara. Amara gazed out of the window, noticing that they were not heading home, and asked him where they were going. Liwei's eyes remained fixed on the road as he told her that she would see. She laughed lightly, teasing him that she looked funny in Ming's clothes. Liwei didn't respond, his focus entirely on the road ahead. She glanced at him again, observing how serious he was, and asked if something was wrong. Liwei simply shook his head silently and continued driving. Amara frowned slightly, asking if she had done something wrong. Noting how he had seemed happy at the airport but had changed now, Liwei, still focused on driving, told her that he was okay and suggested that she rest for a bit since the drive would be long. Sensing his unrest, Amara leaned back in her seat and laid her head against it, her gaze soft as she tried to read him and drifted into sleep. Liwei kept driving in silence, the tension in the car palpable but unspoken. After a while, Liwei pulled over. He reached out and gently lifted her face, telling her they had arrived. They both stepped out of the car as he guided her. Her eyes widened in awe. The scenery before her was breathtaking, more beautiful than anything she had ever seen. The entire place was made of roses, the air sweet and refreshing with their fragrance. A huge smile spread across her face as she looked around, her joy lighting up the space. Liwei stood behind her, watching intently, his gaze softening at the sight of her happiness. She turned to him, curiosity and delight shining in her eyes, and asked what this place was. Liwei smiled and told her that it was called the Garden of Eternal Roses, and that he had booked the entire place just for the two of them. He reached for her hand, interlacing his fingers with hers, and told her that they should go in and explore the whole place, hand in hand. They stepped forward together, ready to immerse themselves in the beauty and magic of the roses surrounding them.